Good afternoon. It's Monday, the 1st of March. It is a chilly, cloudy day, but I'm back in the reading nook and I have a new parcel to unbox, courtesy of Neve. So this isn't mine. She is kindly letting me unbox it out here in the back garden. So here we go. And obviously, because of the packaging, I can tell it's come from Drive-Through RPG. And what have we got? Okay, this is Citizens of the Lunar Empire by Chris Gidlow. It has come from the Johnstown Compendium, the Community Support Program, Creators Program for RuneQuest, Roleplaying Glorantha, Quest Worlds, and 13th Age Glorantha, run by Chaosium. Let me see. Welcome to your new apartment, citizens. New to Glamour? Well, I'm sure you'll fit right in. Rent is payable in advance. Citizens of the Lunar Empire is a source book for urban adventures for RuneQuest role-playing in Glorantha. Focuses on the day-to-day lives of the working class heroes of the lunar capital. Inside you'll find a detailed home base for your adventurers, the Insula, a typical multi-storey residential city block. Self-contained microcosm of lunar urban society, it is home to many families and businesses, ranging from scribes and traders on the lower floors to the unemployed, squatters, temple dancers and students at the higher levels. 172-page book contains maps, floor plans and elevations, descriptions of 12 businesses and 25 families, portraits and statistics for 70 NPCs, 60 adventure hooks for your urban campaign, details of daily life in an ancient city from bread making to waste disposal, rules for making a living and keeping a roof over your head in the sophisticated Lunar Empire. So, in some ways, it's a companion to the Guide to Glamour, which is also available in the Johnstown Compendium and is by many of the same authors. In that presented an overview of the city, and here this drills down to one particular, essentially, apartment block or insula. In use of insula, basically echoing sort of the Roman tide influences are basically upon the sort of the creation of the Lunar Empire. Although it's not, it's not Rome. It's essentially a facsimile of Rome in the setting of Glorantha. And in some ways, it's also the counterpart to the Sartorite It's the counterpart to, it's the lunar counterpart to another supplement on the Johnstown Compendium, which is the Dregs of Clearwine, which I've done an unboxing of already and reviewed, which focused on a slum area of the city of Clearwine, a very small slum, just sort of like 10 families, 10 buildings. But here we've just got one building, multiple families, multiple occupants, businesses, and so on. So inside, there's a creek there. It's a full colour book. We have essentially, we have a quick introduction to Glamour and the creator it is in before we get into the insula itself. First glance, and then we go on to essentially the maps and the elevations. So here you have the front of the front north elevation, then you've got a map of the ground floor, and this is basically going to set the format for the book going through. So let's have a look, and then in one of those cases what we've got is the icon painter. That's the home and workshop of the icon painter. Go to the next page, you have a description of who he is, what he does, his business and so on. Illustration and distinguishing characteristics. So not full stats, but basically the minimum stats you would require to interact for him, and then it's going around the floor plan of the building, describing who works there and what they do. So the cobbler, the household goods. There's a school there as well. Some basic notes on schools there, and it's going to do this right the way through. So but it's gone around. It's come around to the entrance, and it's telling you, okay, let's see, first glance, basically, so what basically you move into the build, come into the building the first time. Here's what you see. You visit again, then you've got, once you get to know what it's like, and then in detail and so on, and then there's notes for the adventurers, and secrets which might be found there, whether that's people or something or an object and so on. So there we go. That's sort of the general structure, essentially, of format of each of the entries in this book. So it goes describes the family. Again. Another business, the stationers, and you've got adventure hooks there, regular placed throughout. So that what you generally, in most cases, adventures you have in RuneQuest are quite big, expansive things. You go there, you do something, you face a threat, or the threat comes to you. Here you have basically a small environment which you can explore, and you interact with the inhabitants of the building. Essentially, the building itself becomes the neighbourhood, and it's got a bar, and there are people working there, and you can interact with them, and so on. And various basically patrons. And it does go outside. So you've got the Victory and Plenty Crossroads, so that's where it's located. So it looks at that in some detail. Okay, and it's talking about there's a rival insula and a poor insula nearby, and so on, and that's accompanied by basically street plan. So you get an idea, sort of like what the insula stands on its own block, and ultimately you have an idea that it's essentially that Glamour itself is quite an organised city, laid out quite neat and tidily. Comes to the barbers, the oil vendor, and so on. And again, things like the oil vendor and the barber, they do point towards like a Roman influence in this supplement. I mean, that's no bad thing. I mean, basically, it's a nice way of approaching it. And it makes at the same time it makes it accessible, because it gives you sort of like a frame of reference. Again, that sort of thing is kind of useful for approaching the Lunar Empire, because it's not immediately accessible in RuneQuest Roleplaying Glorantha as written at the moment. Okay, there's no official supplement on the Lunar Empire. Really, the only references we have are the Guide to Glamour and this book. There are notes on Lunar Tash, for example, but not Lunar Empire itself, to any great extent. So yeah, you've got multiple floors, the different the departments of where basically the owners and of the businesses on the ground floor, where they live on the first floor. And it's repeating this again and again. Looking at each of the apartments. There's basically it adds a gang as well. And the Unriver gang here. Basically, it looks like they're going to be more trouble than necessarily danger, but wait and see when I actually dig into the book, when I've got a copy of my own and can review it. Up to the second floor, where the Baker's family live. The artwork is good throughout. So yeah, there's a slight. I would say in some cases there's a slight cartoonish quality to it. It's adult in tone, but it's not. It's decent. It's decent artwork throughout. Then we go on to let's have a look. Third floor, again, more apartments and more inhabitants. And because of what it is, we come onto apartment on the third floor. We have a block committee. And traditionally block committees, are basically self-serving power blocks or organisations, that lay down the rules and guidelines for what you can and can't do in the building. And we come up to the 4th floor, and again more families and so on all the way through. And then we come up to basically on the 4th floor, the adventurers. There's an empty apartment which the characters could actually move into and make their own, complete with a servant, basically 7 sisters worshipping Trollkey. Up to the 5th, on basically there's a 5th floor as well, where Tila the Temple Dancer lives. I'm sure she might, basically once the player characters have moved in downstairs, she might become a person of interest for various reasons. We have example, again we have the Roman influence, where we have Strello, basically upstairs lives Strello the Informer. The Informer was basically a role that you could take. You could get by informing people in the Roman Empire. There's another influence here which which is new to the militia man, which is again with that hat. That suggests sort of like almost a Russian influence. He's almost wearing a Ushanka there. Okay, and we've basically there's an apartment of students. Then we can get up to the roof itself. Well, there's a yurt, and there's even a witter for the building as well. And there are people. There's also NPCs you can encounter outside the insula. So there's a crossing sweeper, there's a courier, and so on. And there's a discussion of also the last things of basically the economics of the insula, the standards of living, and so on. And also, lastly, the cults to be found in the basically present amongst the worshippers in the insula. So that's Citizens of the Lunar Empire. Again, I'm impressed by basically this is presents what is a small, in comparison to basically the wide expansive world, a small enclosed playing area, lots of NPCs for the player characters to interact with, lots of adventure hooks and so on, basically have adventures and encounters on in what is a civilized location, in comparison to what out in the backwater dealing with those bloody awful barbarians, the Sartorites. But anyway, this looks to be another interesting book from the Johnstown Compendium. I will do a review of it in due course once I have my own copy. But in the meantime, please, if you have enjoyed this unboxing, please do click the like button. If you have any feedback or comments, I do take the time to respond, and I do read them. And lastly, if you want to see more of these unboxings, please do subscribe. But again, thank you very much for watching, and I will return very soon with another unboxing here in the Nook. Bye for now.